Hardcore is the best game type to get camos within Call of Duty now. It used to be, back in the day in the golden era of Call of Duty, Hardcore was for those who wanted a more realistic experience with a faster time to kill. However, now it has become the main place to grind for camos fastly and efficiently. This is because every weapon is viable in Hardcore. Even the weapons that are slow in their time to kill in core game modes become 1 to 2 shot kill in Hardcore, regardless of range. The only weapons that might not perform as well as you want them to are some SMGs and the FFAR at extremely long ranges where they become 2 to 3 shot kills, but if you can manage your recoil, won't be an issue whatsoever. Even pistols are 1-shot kills at most, if not all ranges. Because of this, some of the harder camo challenges are extremely easy to get. Headshots are all 1-shot kills regardless of what distance and regardless of what weapon. You could have the Pea Shooter 4000, and if you hit the head of an enemy a kilometer away, that's still going to be a 1-shot headshot. Also, long shots are extremely easy to get for SMGs and some of those weapons that aren't good at longer ranges in core game modes because they're going to be getting 1 to 2 shot kills as well. A great example of this is going to be the Milano SMG. In core, it's somewhat struggles to get long shots in most scenarios, but in Hardcore, you throw on a 3x sight and it almost acts like a marksman rifle, sniper rifle if you can control your recoil or if you're just one-tapping enemies. The goal of this video is to give you tips and tricks on how to improve your Hardcore gameplay to get those camos yourself. I myself never used to play Hardcore just because I didn't like it up until Modern Warfare 2019 where I started to go for Damascus. I dipped my toes in Black Ops 4, but I ended up going back to the core game modes to finish my dark matter in that game. However, I think I have a pretty good grasp on how Hardcore works, especially for new players, with me being one of those players myself. And if a mediocre player just like myself can master Hardcore, then those who are scared to can as well. If there's strategies in Hardcore that I do not mention in this video, comment those down below so not only I can learn some new strategies, but those who might be struggling a little bit harder than usual will have some extra tips and tricks. I'm sure everyone would appreciate it. I would say the prerequisites into playing Hardcore is not only knowing how the game functions, whether that's gunplay, spawns, map layouts, or how game modes work. These are the most fundamental things you will be using in the game in general, and they become a little bit more important within Hardcore because if you can predict spawns, you can pre-fire corners where you know enemies are going to be running and coming from. And the reason this is different from core is because those pre-fire corners will win you gunfights. In core, if an enemy starts pre-firing you, you have a chance, if your weapon's better in that certain scenario, to get the kill. However, in Hardcore, it's whoever gets the bullet off first. It's kind of like a shootout in the Wild West. 9 times out of 10, gunfights in Hardcore are won by whoever has the quickest reaction time and whoever can get their shot off accurately first. This also carries over into your game awareness and your map knowledge. If you know where your team is spawning and you know the map layout and the spawns, you can predict where enemies are coming from, what positions they're going to try and get to and hold down, and this will give you the advantage of getting those sight lines early. And whoever gets these sight lines the earliest has the highest percentage, which is going to be in the high 90s, of winning that gunfight and getting that kill. Some of you may be thinking, how do I know where the enemy spawns if I don't have a minimap? For Cold War specifically, if you press the M button on keyboard or pull up your scoreboard and hit a bumper button to bring up the full map, you can see the entire map. Of course, it will take up most of your screen and it's not good to use this in combat, but if you're coming straight from a spawn or no actions happening around you, feel free to pull up this big map. You won't be able to see where the enemy's on it unless a UAV or field mic is active, but you can get a good generalization of where the enemies are. Think about it this way. The enemies are going to be wherever your team isn't. So if your team is on one half of the big map, you can pretty much conclude that the enemy's on the other, and that's where the spawns are going to be as well. Your team will be where your team currently is, and then the enemy's spawn will be where no one is on the map. One score streak you always want to have in Hardcore is the UAV. This will give you an advantage of having a minimap. If your team is the only team with a UAV active, the other team will have no minimap and your team will all have one, giving you the extreme advantage of knowing where shots are coming from as well as where enemies are if they do not have the ghost perk equipped. Another thing you can also pair with the map strategy of pulling up your big map temporarily to get an advantage is running a field mic. Your field mic acts as a portable UAV that you can only place one time. If any enemy doesn't have ninja and runs through that radius of the circle, you pretty much get a live heat map of where that enemy is, and you can pre-fire or pre-aim where they're coming from. Keep in mind, this only will work if you have a UAV active or if you pull up your map. There's a lot of people in hardcore that don't know that you have access to a map pretty much at your disposal, so use this to your advantage, but I would not recommend doing it in high intense situations where there's lots of enemies pushing the objective you're on, or if you're pushing an objective. I only bring up the map when I feel confident and comfortable to, whether this is while I'm capturing an objective that no enemies are by, or if I'm just spawning and want to get a little bit of intel on where to push around the map from spawn. One thing that might be tricky to do is melee weapons within hardcore. Reason being is because in core, melee weapons are one-shot kills anyway, but the downside is in hardcore, you're still a one-shot kill at most scenarios, and you have to sacrifice distance and get to the enemy as close as possible to get those kills. This might put you at an extreme disadvantage because as you try to run towards the enemy spawn and stun or flash them, if they connect one bullet with a strong weapon, no matter how stunned they are, how blind they are, or how inaccurate they are, all it takes is one lucky bullet to kill you. So that is the one thing that I recommend not even focusing on in hardcore. However, your challenges with your launchers and your M79, hardcore is perfect for it. Of course, lots of people will run flak jacket so explosive damage doesn't kill them instantly, because in hardcore without flak jacket, if the shockwave of an explosion hits you, you're dead. So lots of people will run flak jacket, and you will get lucky lobbies where no one's running flak jacket on the enemy team in general, and you can get a lot of kills. Also, keep in mind that hitting an enemy with the butt of your launcher counts as a one-shot kill towards camo challenges. And in core, it usually takes 2 hits, maybe 3 if they have armor. So use this to your advantage. Once again, keep in mind that if you're running into a gunfight trying to melee people, you're going to have to get close without them seeing you, because if they see you and get that one bullet off, you're dead. But you can also get really lucky with double kills, because if enemies don't have flak jacket and are in close radius to one another, that explosion in core might only kill one and damage the other, but in hardcore it will kill both of them, and you can get some pretty nasty double and multi kills in hardcore domination if a lot of enemies are heading towards an objective, or if you can completely spawn trap the other team. Hardcore Nuketown 24/7 is going to be one of the best places to get your launcher camos done, just because it's predictable to know where the enemies are, and there's not a lot of area the enemy can run. So even if you're shooting through a doorway, just hoping an enemy's on the other side, because the map's so small and you're restricted on where you can go, there's a pretty good chance that you can get some of those lucky kills that way as well. My personal favorites for general camo challenges is the Crossroads Raid 24/7 playlist, specifically in hardcore. Not only are both these maps extremely fun to play, but there is a wide variety of areas to do long shot kills, point blank kills, and all of the above challenges that you will need to do. This is also an escape from the craziness that Nuketown 24/7 hardcore is. A lot of people in hardcore will shoot through walls where they know enemies will be spawning, and they will get some cheap kills. If you've ever played hardcore Nuketown, you will know sometimes you just spawn and die to someone just shooting through a wall because they know that you're going to be coming from that direction. So if you want to escape that hectic playstyle, take advantage of that Crossroads raid. And both of those maps are small as well. They're not as small as Nuketown, but they're small enough where the action never stops and it is constant fun. If you are a player who likes some of the even bigger maps, head to Hardcore Domination. Functions the exact same as normal domination, it's just hardcore health and hardcore rules. Super easy and super fun. You can spawn trap really easily on some of the bigger maps like Armada, and you can get a lot of your camo challenges done as well. I would recommend only doing this if you're struggling in the Raid Crossroads playlist or Nuketown playlist, and I also don't recommend going to Hardcore, Free-For-All, or TDM, or Search and Destroy for camo challenges. Those 3 game modes, their spawns aren't predictable because they can flip too easily in TDM and Free-For-All, and Search and Destroy is only 1 life per round, so you're not going to be able to do a lot of camo challenges, if not any there. Now let's talk a little bit about in-depth gunfights. As I said earlier, health is reduced to 30, so everyone spawns in with 30 health, which is basically a one shot for most weapons in the game. If you're running a pistol, you're going to get 1 shots all the time, which is extremely lethal because the pistols not only can be extremely accurate because all of them except for the Diamatis are semi-automatic at this point within the game, but you can move extremely fast and are extremely agile, giving you the upper hand in movement while the enemies might be running around with LMGs, and you can ADS faster. The only downside is it's not fully automatic and your ammo count might be lower. The shotguns have 1 main con and 1 main pro. The con is, because these shotguns need to get up close and personal, you have to risk running out in the open and getting 1 shot by almost anything if an enemy sees you. You can use flank routes to your advantage, but that's the downside. The pro is, if your shots can hit enemies regardless of what range you are, as long as you are in the radius of your shots being able to connect and hit the enemy player, you are always going to get 1-shot kills, making long shots with the shotguns extremely easy. So if you're using the Gallo or the Howler and you have the extended barrels on that gives you damage range increases, you're going to be extremely lethal because you can hip fire enemies, so you don't have to be accurate, and the pellet spread will always get you plenty of kills. Going into SMGs, you're going to have 1 main area where you're going to struggle. That's going to be bullet velocity and damage range. The SMG's bullet velocity isn't very fast, and the bullet's going to drop a lot faster than an assault rifle or an LMG. So getting long shots, you might have to lead your shots a lot more, as well as aim a little higher, which will give you the disadvantage against any gunfights against assault rifles, LMGs, tac rifles, snipers, and even pistols. There are some that do not have this downside, like the Milano and sometimes the AK-74U. We've already touched on launchers, so we're going to head into the general category, which is everything else, which includes LMGs, assault rifles, tactical rifles, and snipers. All of these can be 1-shot kills at all ranges with good bullet velocity and damage range. So if you throw on a 3x scope with any of these weapons, it pretty much acts like a sniper rifle, especially the snipers, of course, that's kind of a given, but you can make any assault rifle lethal at all ranges. Throw on a 3x scope and you can just 1-tap enemies with no issue whatsoever. Hardcore mainly is a medium to long range game mode because a lot of enemies will try to hold positions where they can kill you before you can get even close to them. Of course, there are some map exceptions to this, like the Raid Crossroads 24/7 playlist and Nuketown. So on the other maps, a lot of enemies are going to be holding long lines of sight because they know they can kill you in 1 bullet in almost every situation. So hardcore can be a little bit of a slower game mode sometimes. Now, there are some really good players that will use their skill to their advantage to get up close and personal with you, get some easy kills, and dominate the game. Those are my important tips and tricks for hardcore. I hope this guide does help those who want some tips and tricks for this game mode, and for those who are struggling. Leave a like if you did enjoy, dislike if you didn't. There's no hard feelings whatsoever. Once again, if there's something that I didn't mention that you know about, comment that down below to help everyone out. Subscribe for more videos in the future. There's the Discord link in the description, as well as some Dark Matter and Dark Ether camo guide playlists. And if there is one, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.